Hi guys, welcome to Carpool Book Review. I'm Chris from Viva Books, and today I have with me Fleur McDonald, one of Australia's biggest selling authors. See up there, over 600,000 copies sold. So if you don't know Fleur, Fleur is a country girl at heart.
I am.
She writes a ripping yarn, and I'm about a bit over halfway through, and I'm loving it. I'll have to admit, it's the first book I've read of yours, but it's just so good. You've got how many books out?
16.
16.
Yeah,
wow.
We're just editing the 17th at the moment.
Oh, good Lord. So there you go. So if you love this like I am, you've got a lot in front of you. But Fleur, tell us all about your book.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Yes,
Yeah.
So The Shearer's Wife. Guess what it's about? A Shearer's Wife. So it's actually got a dual narrative. It starts off in the 1980s, and if you can believe the 1980s are like 40 years ago, I actually keep thinking they're like,
about that.
I know, I keep thinking they're like 20 years ago, but then I worked out I had the grey hair to prove it. This has been the first book tour I've been on that I've forgotten to have my hair dyed before I came on here. So anyway, it starts off in the 1980s, and we meet Rose and Ian Kelly, and Ian's a Irish larrikin.
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
He's a gypsy, and he
Lovable larrikin, by the sound of it.
He is, and he loves Rose, his wife, but and she's pregnant with twins. But he just wants to stay on the road,
Yeah.
and Rose doesn't. She just wants a little home.
Yeah.
So very early on in the piece, Rose goes into labour, and then they have to sort of work out what they're going to do from there. But in 2020, I don't know if any of you have read my books beforehand, but I set them in a little town called Barker in South Australia. The Australian Federal Police swoop into Barker, and they make this really crazy arrest that my detective Dave Burrows just doesn't understand, and Detective Dave Burrows has been with me since my first book, Red Dust.
Right, okay.
And then Zara, who was in Starting From Now, she's a rural journalist. She comes in and starts interviewing a few people and talking to people about this arrest that's happened, and then as time goes on, she's sort of making some connections between the two like the
Stories.
1980s.
Yeah.
So you've got to read it to find out how that all happens.
Yeah. Can't give away too much. So what I really loved about the novel is the insight you have into the way men think.
That hasn't stood me in very good stead before.
I don't know how you get in there, but I'm really surprised at the sort of things you know a bloke thinks about when he first sees his wife breastfeeding and things like that. So you've got an insight. Someone's telling you something.
Actually, no, not about that. I've just read that can be a problem, and I guess I did a little bit of research into all of that. So when Rose is in Barker in her new little house that she has that's been lent to them, Ian's been still shearing, and he comes back in, and he wasn't around for the birth or the so she sort of got recovered by herself, and that was what he found so confronting, was that she was feeding these two babies. And he didn't. He felt really uncomfortable with that, and Rose could see he was uncomfortable, but she didn't really know how to put him at ease because it was just so natural.
Yeah. You've got such an ability to understand the people in their roles and what they're thinking, but then you've got this ability, I would almost call it a technical ability, to understand all the shearing equipment. And
well, I'm a farmer. I worked in shearing sheds.
Right, okay.
So when I first worked on a farm, I worked we were trying to save money. My ex-husband and I were trying to save money, and so I would work as a rousey in the shed.
Oh, I didn't get that. I read more that you raised your children pretty well in a donga that didn't have very much cooking equipment, and you're on an 8,000 acre farm, and you were really doing it quite rough, really.
We didn't have power or a toilet for the first, I think it was 5 years. So when the power got put on when I was pregnant with my first child. And it was, but you know what, it doesn't matter doing it tough. That's actually a really good thing, because you have a goal and you're working towards it, and so you just never forget where you've come from, or so you're never going to lose what you create.
When you look at the cover, which is a great cover, but for me it's sort of it says rural romance on it, but it's really rural literature, and there's a lot of crime in there. I'm actually really surprised how much crime's in there?
I love crime. It's what I read. It's what I watch on TV. Anything to do with forensic science, murder mysteries, anything like that.
Yeah,
so that's what I like to write about. And sometimes, I know that the covers are a branding thing for me now. And people can walk in and they'll see a cover like that, and then they'll look at the cover before they look at the author's name. Sometimes I struggle with this a little bit, just because it does have that whole rural romance connotation to it, and I don't particularly like books that you read the first chapter and know what the ending's going to be.
No, we're going with yours, by the way.
Oh, that's good. That's what I try to achieve. So I've had people say to me that their teenage boys are reading these books, or young boys in their or young men in their 20s, and they've got to put a cover over them because they don't want their mates to see what they're reading, but they like them. And
I get it.
And there's 50-year-old men that read them as well. I don't know that they put covers over them, but
Well, I'm 57, but I haven't gone out in public with it. No, I'm only kidding.
You haven't come out of the closet yet.
I'm still reading it in bed going, well, this is really good. Because it's such an Australian read, and it's got that Australian crime, and you've got those dry characters that are in there, and the blokes that sort of nod yes to their superiors, but really are saying, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're just not taking any shit, and they're just going to go, nah, I'll just grin and go along, and I'll do it my way.
Yeah, that's right, and they do. That's how a lot of blokes in the country are.
Yeah. So Dave, your character that's in the crime side of it, he's been with you since the first novel, did you say?
Yeah,
wow.
I created him back when Red Dust first came out, and what was really funny is I'd written his character, and then I had to ring up the stock squad that was still here available in WA at that stage, looking for some information on some of the investigation techniques that they were using in Red Dust, and a guy that answered the phone was really, really happy to share his information and knowledge. He actually headed up the stock squad at that point, and he and I became really good mates, and he still is with me as an advisor and a friend, now, these days.
His name's not Dave, is it?
It is actually, yeah. But it was funny because I had created the character before I met Dave.
Right.
But he's wonderful. I don't know that my books wouldn't be what they are without him, because he's got all the authenticity from the policing side of things, and makes it right. And he reads everything that I write before I send it in.
Wow, does he?
Yeah, he does.
Wow, wow.
And he actually is a typical male. I'll get like a 3-word email back, reads well. Actually, no, I think the last one I got was reads good. But
short, succinct, to the point.
That's right. But if he's got something to say, if I haven't written something right, he will certainly tell me, and he'll also go on to, if he thinks that there's something more that I can add in, he'll give me thought processes.
And so how you're writing it, you're saying like 1980, which I had the same thing as you. I went 40 years ago. So I did it in my head, and I went, hang on a second. So Rose has just had her babies. They're now 40.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, I remember 1980 really clearly, and sometimes not so clearly.
My sister was born in 81, and that was just that's just a crazy thing. It seems like I can remember it so clearly that it just seems crazy that it's that long ago. We must be getting old.
I think so.
I looked at the date on the birth certificate lately.
So when you're doing that different period, it must be hard to weave it all together at the back end, or does it just sort of come together because of what you've done with it?
I never used to plan a book, but that was when I wrote one book a year. I write 2 books a year now, and it's one of those things where I don't have the luxury of time anymore. A lot of the time I've sort of got the big points of the book in my head, like the beginning, middle and the end type thing. And I'll have a few ideas about where I want to go with it, but at the end of the day, I don't, like we were talking before, I want you all to turn the page and finish the book and go, wow, I never saw that coming, type thing. So I think if you plan, you've got more likelihood of causing that, oh yeah, I know what's going to happen. And I don't want anyone to be like me, where I get halfway through a book and go, yeah, I know who's done it, so I read the last chapter and then I put the book down.
You don't.
I do.
As
Don't
an
tell
author, you should never
anybody
admit that. I won't ask you what the last book you read was.
Oh, but it's only if I've guessed it. And if I've guessed it, well then, what's the point in finishing it?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I do check. I do check that I'm right.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, then I go, oh crap, where did I go wrong there? And they're the great ones. They are the great ones.
Yeah.
So I plot to a point, but with the knowledge that it is all subject to change at any given moment.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I like that. I like that there's some sort of random acts going on in there that you don't know are going to happen. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So this is number 16, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so number 17's already being vetted?
Yes, we did. I just got the second edit this morning. And so, yeah, I'll have to get home once I finish this tour and get onto that. And then I've started the next one. Because the next one's due on the 1st of April. So
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So you're still enjoying the process as much as you always have?
Yeah, look, it's like any job.
Yeah.
You've got your days. And it also, I find it really depends on what's going on in my world. Like if my world's happy and cruisy and
so it's like any job, like you say.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very lucky to do something that I love. And someone asked me the other day whether I still loved it as much as, right from the word go.
Yeah.
I keep coming back to writing. I started a not-for-profit organisation called DV Assist a while ago, and I've just taken a step back from that. And but I've come back to the fact, I've come back to words, I've come back to what I know and what's safe and all that sort of stuff for me. So, obviously I still really love it because I keep coming back to it. And if I haven't written for, a week or so, this is going to sound very mad, but my fingers get itchy. And
seriously?
Yeah, and I actually have to write.
Wow, that is you're a real writer. So there you go. That's Fleur McDonald and her book, The Shearer's Wife, which I can personally recommend. It's really good. Really enjoying it. I'm going to go back and read the others now.
There's no higher praise than coming from a bookseller.
Is there? Oh, well, that's good to hear. I'm pleased to hear that. Yeah. So thanks, Fleur. Thanks for your time, and good luck with this one.
Thank you.
And the next few.
Lovely.
Excellent. Thanks for your time.
Much.
Good on you. See ya.